Does look nice.
Oh, there you go. There you go. There you
All right.
go.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Wednesday rally. Appreciate your time. And I'm super excited because we have a very special guest today. We have Stacey McVey, who is going to talk to us about the 12-week year. I have my field guide right here that I haven't filled out, which is an amazing book. I read it probably 2 months ago and thought I was really going to implement it, and I just haven't done it yet. So I'm very excited to hear what Stacey has to say. And Stacey has been selling real estate for 30 years in Ohio.
Just
Have you
hearing you
always?
say that,
That,
like I
that
win.
doesn't even seem possible. Come
That's
on.
what I said. She must have started when she was
Really
10, obviously.
mall hair, and a perm and my gold jacket, Chris. I had the whole get up, and we were still wearing pantyhose and high heels to every appointment. It was
Those were
insanity.
good old days.
Fancy. I remember the pantyhose for sure. I was just telling my husband
Oh,
about the
horrible.
pantyhose days.
Good
Have you
stuff.
always been in Ohio?
Always been in Ohio, born and raised, native on the far east side, and have worked all over. So we serve the east and the west side of Cleveland. And if you're from the area, there is obviously an invisible like passport needed to get you from one side to the other. Very few agents work both. And we also do south. So we really do cover pretty much the top quarter of Ohio, and we love it here. It's fantastic. Cost of living's great. We have investment properties that cash flow day after closing. Like, what's not to love about that? So it's a great market to do real estate in.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like it. My husband is from Chicago. So I've been back to Chicago a few times, and I just love that whole vibe
Yeah.
in that part of the country. Right.
Yep. That
So
classic Midwestern vibe.
yep, everyone's so nice there. It's
Well, we
cool.
can.
I guess it all depends. All right,
Right.
cool. Well, let's get going because I know your time is valuable. And if anybody has questions, let's put them in the chat so we can just answer. Stacey can answer those for us at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. And, even if you have a question and you want to ask me later, or like, I think Chris even has my number, ask on here so people who are watching later get the benefit of the answer too. If you don't mind, that would be great. And do I have driving privileges? Can I share my screen?
Should be able to.
Okay, perfect. I just want to go ahead and jump right in. And let's go into present mode here. And when I do, it's a little bit harder to see you. So, but I want you to be able to see it full screen. So bear with me. And I got an email actually from Brian Moran this morning reminding me that we are about 1 week away from 2023 being like close to over. And I'm like, I'm still writing 2022 on stuff. Like, I cannot believe how quickly this year has gone. And I don't know about your market. Every market is different, but here our spring has yet to spring. We have not had that typical influx. Even with inventory being low, we had a little bit of a swell where we would have houses coming to market and stuff. We're still waiting for that. And so properties that went under contract over the weekend have, 14, 15, offers on them. And that's maddening for buyers agents. And it's also maddening for listing agents because these things are selling so fast. It's really hard to leverage those listings to get more business. And I think sometimes when the market's moving fast, it actually scares people out of the market because it's unnerving. I wouldn't know what to do if my house sold in 3 days. And that's all we keep saying. Like, it's sold in negative 30 minutes,
Right.
and people are like, I can't even process that. Like, how pack our shit in enough time and everything like that. So hopefully, we'll talk a little bit about obviously the 12-week year, but the opportunity that working a plan like this really provides, and that is to work in the market you're in, to tune your activities and everything to the market you're currently working in. Not the one that you thought it was going to be last November when you did your annual business plan, but the one we're in right now. So I'm going to go ahead and go here. There's QR code on the screen. if you wouldn't mind, just scan that, fill out that form. I'm going to give you a copy of the slides and a copy of some other goodies that you can use to go ahead and work your way through a 12-week year. And I really want to let you know and be transparent. This really started with me sucking and sucking hard, because what was happening was I was doing an annual plan. I was teaching an annual planning class. We did it for 6 hours of CE. It was an 8-hour class. We had lunch. We were doing all kinds of, third grade math to come up with what we thought our numbers would be to reach our goals and all of those things. And it wasn't working. It wasn't working anymore. And at the time, my partner was coaching with Don Hobbs, and she's like, you need to get on this phone call. So we get on the phone call and he's like, I'm tired of hearing the excuses. I want you to read this book, and I want you to read it, and I want you to read it cover to cover, take copious notes. And this is what we're going to do from here on out, because you're just falling further and further behind. And if you look at what your goals were for this year and you're tracking for those goals, you're in the teeny tiny minority of agents. A lot of agents are running behind where they thought they would be already this year. And so now we're like, do we have enough time to catch up? Of course we have enough time to catch up. Like, my hot market hasn't popped yet. We're going to have lots of listings happen at some point. You think you have time, and then you start to look at things and you realize you don't have as much time as you thought. Let's face it, we really have to end our year. We have to write stuff by November 30th. Right, because it's got to close sometimes in December for it to count for this year. So when you start looking at how many months are really left, and my understanding is my hot market is sometimes your slow market. When it gets really hot in the summer, maybe things slow down in some of these markets. And so I was really pissed because I couldn't find a way to make things work. And I was, I'm a tracker, like I was tracking, closings, tracking pendings and all that stuff. I was tracking the wrong things. And in reading the 12-week year, if you haven't read it yet, and you do read it, and I recommend that you read it, you're going to find that it's great and all, but it's very difficult to quickly transfer that information and interpret it as a real estate agent and deploy it in your business. So I did all that heavy lifting for you. And I am wildly passionate about sharing it, because it's going to make a huge difference in how you approach your business the rest of the year, and hopefully for many years to come. And in years, I'm talking 12-week years, not 12-month years anymore. So the first thing that I want to do is have a little fun here. I want you to question what you think you know for sure. So how many of you think that you peel a banana? And I'm looking at my arrows. My arrows are in the wrong spot. How many of you think you peel the banana from this end? Anyone?
Me.
Is that how you peel your banana?
Yes.
And depending on how ripe they are, sometimes that's a nice clean break, and sometimes it gets a little stringy and weird, and you end up getting a paring knife and everything else. How many of you think that you peel the banana from here? Ever heard of that before? Peeling a banana from the little brown spot on the end?
No.
Seems ridiculous, right? So we're operating on the assumption that this is the way you do it. And that's reinforced by the people around us, apparently, because a lot of us on this call have always done this. Well, guess how monkeys do it? I would imagine a monkey eats more bananas than you. Okay. How do monkeys peel bananas? Do you guys know?
Must be that way. From the bottom.
It is. So animals that consume bananas peel them from the brown spot, and then you don't get all that mush at the top. And the reason for that is because this is where it's ripe and dry. Up here, where it can be a little bit green, is where you get that messiness and so on and so forth. But in popular culture, we've always been told that the way to peel a banana is from the top. And we just operate on that assumption, and we don't even question it. We just do it. And when it doesn't work, it's not like we sit there and go, well, why didn't that work? And analyze it and look for a better answer. We just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again with various degrees of success. Okay. And so I'm going to ask you today to just kind of work with me and assume that there are multiple ways to do things that can be effective. And just because we haven't heard of them before or used them before doesn't mean that they can't help us achieve much better results. Okay. So in my opinion, in real estate, you're a little bit on an island. And if you're fortunate enough to be with a company like ours, where there's lots of collaboration and people become friends multiple states away, right, Chris? And you get to meet cool people and talk about cool things. It feels like you're less on an island, but let's face it, you still are. And what I mean by that is your unique market, and by your market, I'm not just talking about geography, I'm also talking about how big your sphere is, who your agent contacts are, what your level of experience is. That's all very unique to you. No two of us on this call are coming from the same place, but all business plans are written the same damn way, regardless of who you are. How long have you been in the business? How many opportunities you already have in the pipeline? You know, what's the price range of those? How many builders do you work with? What contractors do you know? Where do you get your referrals from? There's just all of these variables that make my situation and your situation very unique. And up until now, there hasn't been a plan that effectively takes all of that into consideration. Okay. So to me, goal achievement's all about alignment. And you're going to hear that a lot throughout the 12-week year. It's all about alignment. If I had to pull it down into like one of the main topics, it's about aligning what I do today with what I'm hoping to accomplish this week, with what I'm hoping to accomplish this month, and this 12-week year. And that falls in line with my 3 to 5 year goals and my long-term aspirations. Okay. It's about bringing everything into alignment and really questioning that at all times. We have a really hard time prioritizing in real estate. And that's because everything looks like it's on fire at all times. And let's face it, that's enhanced by all of the emails we get with, you know, everybody's hair on fire about a deal we have going on, or I need this right now. And all of these things that make it really difficult for us to, you know, kind of clear the air and figure out what's important in our world. You know, what sits in your email and what sits on your text messages, guys, those are other people's priorities. OPP. That's what they were singing about in the song. I'm positive. Other people's priorities, you know, because it's never my priority. It's somebody else's, you know, kind of claim that they're staking on my time and on my talent. So I want you to think about things in alignment, and you have to start with your long-term aspiration. Brian Moran talks a lot about it. It's not the same as a big why. Again, total transparency. I get a lot of people are into the big why. That is a really daunting thing for me to wrap my head around. I've been wrestling with that since I started my team leader job at Keller Williams back in like 2010. You know, I was like, this big why thing, this seems like a really big thing to wrestle, and I couldn't figure it out. Well, Brian Moran kind of breaks that down in a different way. He's like, what do you want your life to look like at the end? You know, when you're retired, what does that look like? Who's around you? Where are you living? How much money do you have coming in every month? And then we reverse engineer from there. But nobody spends enough time thinking of where they're going long term. Mm-hmm. Nobody does. And here's the problem. When you get to be my age, after selling real estate for 30 years, okay, I'm like, I don't want to be 70 with my, you know, big hair and my big car and my big brooch, you know, pulling myself out of the car, showing houses. I don't want to do that anymore. So I really have to envision what I want my life to look like long term. And long term for me isn't so long term anymore. You know, as my dad would say, I'm getting long in the tooth for my age. There's that Midwest for you. So you have to think about, you know, what my plans look like are going to be very different than someone who's maybe in their 20s or 30s in this business. Okay, we're not going to be using the same tactics. We're not going to be on the same timelines. So again, coming up with a very clear vision of what you want long term. And then we're going to back ourselves into, where are we now? Like, where am I right now? In just complete raw honesty. Where am I? And what is that gap in between? And then you start building a path based on these little 3 to 5 year goals that you want to reach that'll ultimately get you where you want to go. Okay. So any questions so far? It's nice. I can actually see people. Sometimes I do this and I can't see everyone. Any questions on that so far? It makes total sense, right?
Yes. Love
It's
it.
just like taking a trip. You don't just throw everything you own in the trunk of the car and start driving and arbitrarily make right and left turns. Like that would be absurd. But the problem is you're not applying the same logic to your long-term goals and what you do daily. You know, there just is no alignment again between those two. Okay. So I want you to rethink goal setting a little bit. And he talks about this so much in the book. But again, it's not real dialed in for, you know, real estate agents, especially ones experiencing the crazy that we're experiencing right now. The first thing is you've all been taught about SMART goals. Okay. So what does the S stand for in the SMART goal? Anyone know?
I do know that.
Right? You've
I know
heard
it's measurable,
specific,
achievable, specific.
measurable,
That's
right?
the one, Stacey.
Yeah, specific, right? We get the specific part. I'm going to close 10 deals. That's not hard. Okay. Measurable. Is 10 deals measurable? Sure it is. If I can count to 10, it's measurable. All right. A, anyone know what the A stands for? Chris, do you know?
Attainable?
Attainable. I like actionable so much better.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you why here in a second when we get to the R. What do you think the R stands for? What were you talking? What was that again?
Be realistic?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is a word I want you to eliminate from your vocabulary. Attainable and realistic can be words that really limit you when you're doing your goal setting. And what really stinks about it is that we were all taught this. So that wasn't Chris's opinion. That's what Chris was taught. Okay. We are taught that these things need to be attainable, realistic. Well, I want to change that for you. I'm okay with the S and the M. Okay. But I want to change the A to actionable. It has to be something you can take action on and own 1000% no matter what shows up in your business. You own it. It's not predicated on somebody else doing something else. Okay. It's something you can own 100% and it's either done or not done. And it was totally your fingerprints on it, nobody else's. So it needs to be actionable. And then the R is so incredible. It needs to be relevant. So I want to change. I just want to take that word realistic out of our vocabulary because it's bullshit because we don't know what realistic is. When we think about realistic, we do one of two things. We either think backward to what was I capable of doing before, or I'm going to ask around, hey, I've been in the business 30 years. What's realistic? And I'm going to get lots of opinions from lots of different perspectives that again, lack all of the insight into what my island looks like. What does my sphere look like? What does my referral base look like? Okay. So I want to change that R, and I want you to rethink it because it has to be in alignment with what we're doing. So when I write a goal now, I make it relevant. So I'm going to write, I want to close 10 deals. That's specific and measurable. Okay. And it's actionable, right? I can go take action on that. I'm going to make it relevant so I can bank $16,000 for a family vacation by July 31st. That's the T that makes it time bound. So again, I want to redefine what SMART goals really are. When you change that, the meaning of that A and that R, it's going to change everything. And I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. The next thing is it has to be perfectly aligned. Let's go back here. If I'm here and I want to go here and that thing is out here, there's something wrong. So unless that goal specifically gets me somewhere on this path, I am not interested. It's the wrong goal, or I have to go back and revisit my vision. But if you've got a situation where you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get certified as a social media, digital media creator. Okay, that's way out here. So unless that somehow relates to you getting the income you need and the different income streams you need, you got to seriously question whether or not that's an appropriate goal. Okay, so you want to make sure it's aligned. And then last but not least, and he harps on this relentlessly in the book, we want you to start focusing on lead indicators only. So closings are lag indicators. Lag meaning it's evidence of something that I did before. Okay, so lag, I can't do anything about it. If I have a closing, I can't say I'm going to go get a closing tomorrow if I haven't already written a contract, had an appointment, made the calls, done the things. Okay, so that closing is almost like a foregone conclusion. So stop looking at closings as one of your goals and start looking at something that leads to a closing. Okay, I know if I run enough appointments, if I write enough contracts, if I take enough listings, that the closings will invariably show up. Okay, and when I move my focus from a lag indicator that's not actionable anymore, and I move it to something that's very actionable, I can absolutely control how many calls I make, the size of my email list, how often I send out listings. Am I doing property tours and putting them out to the planet on Facebook Reels or Instagram or something like that? I look at what I can control. The level of activity on that, I can dial up or dial it back as needed. That's a lead indicator. And if I focus on lead indicators, then what's going through my mind is, what tactics do I need to deploy today? So is it making X number of calls, writing X number of notes? You know, what strategy am I using? Am I using a private Facebook group? Am I using a squeeze page and pay-per-click? You know, there's all of these things we could do. You just need to figure out what's appropriate for you that'll drive the appropriate amount of activities. And once you can dial in the number of activities you need to do in a day, then you know whether or not you did the job. Did I plant enough seeds today that the number of closings I want at the end of the year will show up? That's super important. So if you have a business plan that's focused on how many closings you have, the problem with that is you're not spending enough time thinking about the how you're going to get all those closings. Does that make sense? Lead indicators are very actionable. It's something I can go do and do 100% no matter what the market conditions are. Okay, lag indicators are what shows up later. GCI is a lag indicator. A closed unit is a lag indicator. Lead indicators are, again, calls, appointments, consultations, building relationships with builders, all of those things. That's where my focus needs to be. The lag indicators will show up. Problem is, we don't measure these. We're not measuring them at all. And that's a huge part of the 12-week year. So here's why we want to look at changing the way we write goals to being ambitious, really relevant goals, relevant to our long-term vision, relevant to our 3 to 5 year plans. If I'm a couch potato and I want to run a 5K, okay, I can write out that training program. Actually, I don't even have to. There's an app for that on your phone called Couch to 5K. So if you wanted to run a 5K, you could do that. And let's say I want to run that 5K by Labor Day. Okay, so I'm going to go from couch to 5K. I'm going to have a plan. Now, what if I want to go from my couch to running a marathon on Labor Day? Can we agree that's a little more ambitious? In my case, that would be crazy ambitious. Okay, I would even wonder if that's possible, right? So I'm going to challenge that realistic thing, right? Is this realistic by Labor Day?
Yes.
Yeah. If I've never run a step in my life, it's totally doable. Totally realistic, totally doable. Is this realistic? I don't know. I've never done it. I don't know what that takes. I don't know what it takes to go from somebody who doesn't run to completing a marathon. I don't know what that looks like. Okay, so I have no clue if this is realistic for me or not. I could tell you if I had already been a runner and I've been running half marathons, this is probably more realistic. Okay, but I don't want that to keep me from considering this. If I really want to do it, is it possible? Probably. It's going to hurt. It's going to take a lot of commitment, and it's going to take a different plan. Okay, this plan and this plan are going to look very different. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the differences in what running a 5K and running a marathon might look like if I'm going to commit to that by Labor Day. If I want to run a marathon by Labor Day, what am I going to have to do to plan for that? Do you guys know? What would be one of the things you would do? Someone says you've got to do it. There's just no way out of it. You got to do it.
Buy a good pair of shoes.
Say that again.
Buy a good pair of running shoes.
Yeah. So
That would be your
how do I
first
do
step.
that? Right? These are marathon running shoes. These aren't 5K running shoes. These are marathon running shoes. Okay, perfect. What else am I going to have to do?
Start at least moving.
Yeah.
Right.
So I got to figure out, like, what do I do first? I don't even know how to stretch. Right.
Mhm.
So how am I going to find that stuff out?
YouTube.
How am I going to?
Yep.
YouTube? Okay. So I could go to YouTube. What else
Find someone
might I
who's
do?
done it before
Correct.
and
And pace, right?
Yep.
What should I do? How did you screw up? How can I avoid making the same mistakes, right? I'm probably going to hire a coach, right? I don't need a coach to get my ass over a 5K finish line. That is not a problem, okay? But if I'm going to run a marathon, I probably need a nutrition coach and I probably need a running coach. I probably also need a group of running buddies. There are running clubs for people who are training. I'm going to need a plan. It's going to look really different. Okay. Now, if I do this, even though it's realistic, okay, and I do my little couch to 5K plan, I might do it and I might not. Because let's face it, I'm not really becoming a better runner or much of an athlete if I'm looking to do this. Is that fair? I'm not saying 5Ks aren't awesome, but it's more of a fun run, right? It's 5K. It's not even 5 miles, right? So this isn't going to be much of a reach. But when you look at a plan like this one, it's going to be a tremendous reach. And it is going to create a different human just by virtue of the fact that you're working a much more intense plan. You're getting a lot more input on how to do things right and avoid some mistakes. You'll have people to consult with along the way. So what I don't like about realistic goals, okay, is that it does not stretch you out. You have no idea what you're capable of. So when you're doing your goal setting in a 12-week year or even any other type of business planning that you choose to do, get rid of the word realistic and really make sure they're relevant to what you're doing and they're incredibly ambitious. Now, even if I never make it across the finish line, am I going to make it? If I do this training here, am I going to make it past 5 kilometers?
Yes.
Yeah. Bare minimum, I'm probably at least going to make it halfway, which is a half marathon. Okay. If we bring this into GCI terms, guys, I sure like half marathon GCI better than 5K half-assing at GCI. And so all I'm going to ask you to do is go back, revisit your goals, get rid of what's realistic, because honestly, if you do it right, it should be a really tough thing to get to your goal, but it's going to cause you to build a whole different plan, and you're going to come out the other side being so much stronger, and your business will be stronger for it too. You're going to be using different tactics that are much more effective, especially in this kind of market. Okay. So I want you to learn to love your P's. And no, not those gross kind that the lunch lady used to serve you, but these P's, planning and prioritization. So on a 12-week year, you're coming up with a new plan for 12 weeks. Some people do one a year. You can think of them kind of like a sprint. Some people do one a year. You never do them back to back according to the book. You always allow yourself a couple of weeks in between. You need a breather, okay? Because this is intense. So the hallmark of a 12-week year is there's planning involved. You're working a plan. And in our sessions that we do, we actually give you a plan to work off of. So it makes it really easy. And then you have to constantly prioritize and reprioritize based on what opportunities are coming into your world. So if you're an agent sitting there with no pipeline, your 12-week year is going to look really different than someone who has a fat pipeline. Those tactics are completely different. And what comes into your world is completely different. So when you're working this, you always want to make sure at the beginning of the day, you're sitting down, you're planning your day first, you're executing on your stuff first, and ideally before you open the email, because we already talked about the email, that's everyone else's priorities. Okay, so we want to make sure our priorities are getting in there first. And then you want to make sure at the beginning of the week, you've made your plan. You go over that. What am I doing today? Okay, check in, blah, 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 blah. Good deal. I'm ready to go. And at the end of the day, you're going to score yourself. And when things show up that are not on our list, we have to question whether or not those are actually our priorities or someone else's. And then we can put those in the appropriate part of our day. Okay. And he talks a little bit about time blocking. How many of you have been successful at time blocking? Time blocking is like one of those things. It's like everybody knows they should do it, but sometimes it's really hard. We have a really simple way to bring that into your world. So I'd love to share that with you. All right. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And you guys, as real estate agents, we just don't have good systems for execution and implementation. Okay. So that's one of the things that, we really need to focus on. So right now you need to double down on your personal growth and development, learning how to implement and implement faster. Okay. So here's some effective strategies for executing tasks. First, identify personalized high impact tactics and prioritize those over everything else. You want to make sure that you have your priorities aligned and what works best for you in your current situation. And of course, that helps to have coaching around you. It helps to have resources around you so that you can bounce those things off of people. Like, what should I be doing right now? This is what I've got going. I've got all buyers. I've got no inventory and I need closings. Help me, please. Someone throw me a life preserver. I don't know what I should be doing. Am I focused on the right things? Okay. Sitting in 4 classes a day on how to get better at social media is not going to fix that problem. So we want to make sure we have those planned. And then you want to break your tasks into really small, manageable steps and have those on something, whether it's on a list somewhere, whether you're working off of some sort of productivity planner, anything like that. You want to make sure you break things down into actions. I'm going to add 100 people to my CRM this month. Great. How are you going to do that? What CRM are you using? Don't know. Where are you going to get the leads from? I don't know. So sometimes these things that sound small, and as a manager, we used to say this to people, right? Well, just go put, 100 people on a spreadsheet so we can get them in your database. That's what we would tell new agents. And they would be like, I don't know how to do that. And so you have to break it down into smaller steps. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to show you how to get your contacts out of Google Contacts and on a spreadsheet. Then we're going to talk to you about how you get the contacts out of your phone. Then we're going to talk about this, right? Breaking it down into those smaller steps. And the next thing is you want to track progress and adjust as needed. If you need to pivot, you need to pivot. But before you pivot, please make sure that you've spent enough time doing a deep dive into what you committed doing. Like, lots of times we pivot because it's not working right away. Mm-hmm. And we just needed to stay with it and make sure we were executing at a high level first. Okay, so I see something in chat. Time blocking is hard because you have to learn to say no. And we never want to say no to clients. Oh my God, David, you said it out loud, what everybody thinks. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And when you do your time blocks matters. And I think the system that we have for doing it is awesome. and it works right in your Google Calendar. You're not buying anything new or anything. And we give you the scripts and some of the tools that you can use to build a bunker. So it helps tremendously, believe me, because I'm not someone who says no very easily either. So I had to build things that kind of say no for me, so that I'm not always put on the spot. So I think that can help. So have a plan, find your tribe, level up your little friend group, your accountability group, be on skin in the game calls. How many of you have skin in the game calls that you're on or that you participate in regularly? What?
Yeah. We're going to
You guys.
We're starting.
Okay. I'm going to tell you this. And if anyone tells Wendy Goss that I said this, okay, her head's going to explode. But I do not know if my business would be where it is right now if I wasn't on a call with Wendy Goss every morning at 8:15, which is 5:15 for her. Chris knows she's there every morning. And sometimes she looks like she just stepped out of bed. And sometimes she looks like she's actually got it going and there's coffee in her hand. And I have said this to her, so it's okay if we stroke her ego a little bit. The truth of the matter is, without Wendy, without Liz, without Ashton, and without Lisa, every morning on my skin in the game call, I know damn well I would not get as much done in a day.
I do have a call with Kevin Howard in Florida, but we end up, because it's just been the two of us for like 2 years, we just end up talking about, not
Here's what's going on. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's really hard. You have to have someone who runs the call, right? What was your intention yesterday? What is your intention today? And if you didn't do what you said you were going to do yesterday, like what got in your way? And this is where my mind usually gets blown. Like, not that I intentionally show up not doing what I was supposed to do. Like, I really try hard not to do that. When I do, and I avail myself and I make myself vulnerable to say, I didn't do it. I've got all these excuses in my head. This is what my brain is telling me. Okay. And to have people go, you need to question that, or have you tried this, or have you thought about that? Those are game-changing moments. And I swear there's not a call that I don't learn something. So there's really something to be said for getting on a skin in the game call. And the magic doesn't happen showing up once. The magic happens that we show up every day, 5 days a week. And there does need to be a structure, to your point, or it just turns into kind of like a bitch session. And sometimes we go off, like this morning, we're all challenged with growing our email lists. Okay. We've all just decided we're going to grow our email lists for agent attraction purposes. Okay. I need to know more people. I want to help more people. So we're growing those lists, and, somebody agreed to be the scorekeeper, and we're working on that. And, just sharing ideas, so we'll do the intentions first and then we'll share ideas after. But I'm telling you, you need to find a skin in the game call. It makes all the difference. All the difference. So what we do, and that's for agent attraction, the one that I run in the morning at 8:15. And then in our coaching program, we do one at 10 Eastern, one at 11 Eastern, 15 minutes. Everybody gets on, we state intentions, and then you have the option to stay on and actually body double, where we mute ourselves. We're on Zoom, but we're accountable because there's other people that are working at the same time. And just seeing those faces sitting there and they're still working, I'm like, I can wait another half an hour for a sandwich. I just don't need to get up right now. Like, I'm just going to keep going, and we push each other, and it's a fantastic thing. So you need to definitely find a tribe and make sure you have people around you that are going to call you out on your BS. Okay. So here's the things you're going to struggle with, and we're winding down here. So I'm going to take some questions, but here are the things you're going to struggle with. After you read the 12-week year, you're going to have a new focus on these things, and you're going to find out that the way you've been doing things is going to make it a challenge. You're going to have to think differently. One of the things that you're going to struggle with is time management and prioritization. Kind of like David said, nobody wants to tell anybody no. We're in a market where if I don't get my buyers into that house right away, it could sell. Like, it's a disaster, right? Trying to time manage. And let's face it, time management is a little bit of a misnomer anyway. What we're struggling with is task management and the timing of when we'll execute certain things. That's what we're struggling with. You're going to have trouble dealing with setbacks and unexpected circumstances. Again, I run my own business. Who's going to call me out on my bullshit if I decide to go do something else today rather than what I intended? Okay. Or I have a home inspection that happened and things are going sideways, or, you know, the appraiser all of a sudden can fit me in and now I need to drop everything and go over to meet him in the house so the appraisal can get done. I mean, this kind of stuff comes up in real estate all the time. How do you deal with that? You know, you're going to have trouble staying motivated and focused. You're not used to having to do that the way a 12-week year requires. You're just not. We kind of just, you know, we're affected by the wind and what phone calls we got and what emails we got. So this kind of brings everything into focus, but you need to still know how to deal with all that shit that shows up. It doesn't go away. So you need to find better ways of managing it. Time blocking and creating a conducive work environment. You'll also be working on that. If you're going to do a 12-week year, it's going to make a big difference. Developing a positive mindset and practicing some self-care. A lot of us don't schedule that. So self-care is not, you know, binging Netflix. You know, it's just not. It's not just being so exhausted you flop down at the end of the day and you're like, if my phone rings, I'm throwing it out the window. We've all been there, right? So we want to make sure we don't run out of gas and we have enough energy. We want to cultivate some discipline and resilience. And we want to learn to celebrate small wins. And that's easy to overlook because it takes us so long to see evidence of our success. If I bust my ass and knock it out of the park today, those results typically don't show up for 30, 60 days. And that can be very discouraging, right? So changing the way we scoreboard, changing the way we plan can definitely help with that. And you're going to feel like on a regular basis, more like you won the day. Like I did everything. I can lean into the fact that when I do these things, the results show up for me. So I can feel good about being done at 6 or being done whenever, taking an afternoon off because I planned for it. You're going to have trouble seeking ongoing support. There's times when you're like, this should be easier. It's not. I'm struggling. You want to put yourself in an environment where you can get that feedback and support. And sometimes it's really tough staying committed and accountable to your goals. We have lots of excuses and reasons why we're not getting there. And so being in an environment where you can get feedback on that and test your perception of reality versus what's really going on can be very, very helpful. Okay, so you're going to struggle with those things. Just know when you read the book and you try and put it in action, that's going to be something that's going to be an issue. And what I'll tell you is the obstacle really is the way. It's not just a book by Ryan Holiday that I recommend everybody on the planet read. The obstacle, like you struggling with time blocking, you struggling with lead generation, you struggling with this stuff, those are obstacles to you getting to where you want to go, and you figuring that shit out is how you're going to get to your goals. There are no ways around it. So when you accept the fact that those obstacles and overcoming those and putting a plan in action is the ticket to you getting the results you want, you're going to go about choosing your daily activities very, very differently. So again, you want to be around people that talk like this too. It's a different vibe for sure, for sure. So we're going to go to Q&A. I'm going to leave this slide here for a second if you wanted to take a picture of it, or go ahead and get the QR code. I'm sure you can also send out this link at the end with a replay of this if someone needs it. And I want to ask you guys some questions. How many of you were familiar with the 12-week year before we started this conversation today? Anybody? Yeah, a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you hear about it, Shelly?
That is a great question. And I don't know, I feel like somebody must have posted about it or something I saw on Instagram about how great it was and how it was life-changing for this person. So I just looked into it and loved it immediately. I mean, I read it really fast and I have the audio in my car, so I'm still listening to it.
Yeah. It's it's so different because it's an action plan. I feel like business plans lack the action part, like the how. We would do all of that stuff where we'd say, like, how much do you want to make pre-tax, post-tax? Okay, this is how many, you know, we know all the numbers, right? We know how many we need in our sphere of influence. For every 12 people we have in our sphere that we communicate with regularly, we'll receive 2 pieces of closed business annually. Like, we had all those conversion ratios, right? And, you know, we were like, okay, do you have enough people in your sphere to support the number of units that you need to crank through? And people are like, I don't know, you know, and then or they'd say, yeah, I have a sphere of like 500 people. Great. Where do those live? Are they in a CSV file? And they're like, well, no, like I've got, you know, I've got 5,000 friends on Facebook and I've got so many Instagram followers and I've got this and I've got that, but it's not pulled together in any sort of meaningful way. So again, we have all these perceptions about what we should be able to get out of our sphere, but we have no way to really manifest that because everything's spread everywhere. And we have this illusion that, well, we don't want to send too many emails, or they already see me on Facebook. They're not going to want texts from me or emails from me. And again, you're not testing any of these perceptions. You're just wondering why you're not getting results. So this is a great way to kind of plug some things in based on who you are and where you're at.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? I want to answer. Do you guys working for old cold leads?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. How many of you are sitting on piles of bullshit leads that you're like, I just can't hit the delete button because I know there's gold in them there hills. How many of you are like that?
Absolutely.
I was on Boomtown for about 12 months, and I don't want to say how much I was spending because I'm ashamed. I have a massive database of just ice cold leads right now.
My name is David. I spent more than enough to buy a brand new Tesla on Boomtown, and I don't know what to do.
At least I'm in a safe place.
Yeah.
This is a no judgment zone.
Right.
Don't
No
tell
judgment.
anybody else.
We've all been there.
We are. So I've got 12,000 sitting in mine. Does that make you feel any better? I don't know how many leads you have total, but I've got 12,000 cold leads.
Oh my God, what a nightmare. I feel way better. Just
Do you
joking.
feel better now? Yeah, and we did Wailopo for a period of time. So it's one thing to have the 12-week year, right? So I have my 12-week year planned, and then we figure out, what am I working with? Well, I'm working with 12,000 cold leads. David's working with a different number. Chris, how many do you have?
3,500.
3,500. Are our tactics going to be different because of the number of those opportunities we have? Of course they are. So that's why I like the kind of coaching that we do, because we go right into like, what are you working with? Let's do this. So one of the things that you can do is you can do, of course, a blast email. Are you still thinking of purchasing a home in the next, 6 to 12 months? You can do something like that. But here's what's really working. And we use the Reach app to do it. How many of you have the Reach app? I'm going to change somebody's life today. I love it. It's Reach. It's a little, I'm typing it in chat. It's a little green. Please hold. I think it's green, right, Shelly? It's green. Yeah, it's a green R.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a green R, like in a white speech bubble. And it sets me back $6 a month, which should pale in comparison to what I spent on Lopo and maybe David, what you spent on Boomtown. But what you want to do is you want to export those cold leads, if you have phone numbers for them, out of your CRM and put them in Reach. And then you're going to start hitting them like that. With Reach, you can do a very short video. It has to be less than 60 seconds. This is the key. Using a video or creating even like a GIF in Canva. So it's got some movement, okay, and it's custom, and then a little bit of text. So I had a lot of old home light leads, and they're doing freaking nothing. They're just sitting there, and they're sellers. And you're like, oh my God, would you just list your house? You know what I mean? And so you know, a lot of them, you know, we keep sending stuff. They're not doing anything. They're not opening emails. We started doing the texting, and we would do a short video. Hi, this is Stacey. At some point in the past, HomeLight passed you along to us. You were interested in selling your home. We understand lots of things have been happening in the market that might have prevented you from doing so before now. And I just want to let you know that I've included a link down below. I want you to take a peek at the report I prepared for you on what your home is currently worth. Okay, maybe something like that. Or are you still thinking, ask a question. Are you still thinking of selling? So I have an agent who did this in Corpus Christi, Texas, and she wrote 6 deals.
Wow.
She got 6,
Yeah.
just cranking through those.
And you can maybe structure something around buyer leads as well with the same message, just saying, you know, hey, I noticed that you were really having a good time browsing homes and saving them. That's so exciting. You know, did something change, or did I drop the ball? It doesn't look like we ever got into contact. And maybe would you say to email those videos, to text those videos, or both?
First of all, use what you got.
Mhm.
This goes right back into 12-week year again. It's like, what do I got? What do I have in my hands? What's in my toolbox right now? These guys I have emails for, always use video. And when you use video, make sure that you include a line of text in the email before the actual video, and then text below. That'll keep you out of the promotions tab. You have a better chance of staying out of the promotions tab. So, and send them in smaller. Don't send them in a giant glob. Send
I'm
like,
sorry, can you say that one more time about staying out of the spam tab or promotions?
so if you're going to send video, I don't care if you're in a CRM, like I was using Follow Up Boss for a long, long time. If you're using KV Core, doesn't matter. So you're going to have your subject line. If you have the ability to have a merge field in the subject line, like their first name, add it. Okay. Use emojis in your subject line. Super important. I thought it was super stupid. I'm like, I'm not an 8th grader who wants to get, you know, smoochy faces and all this bullshit. But it is statistically proven that emojis do help subject lines stand out in an inbox. Okay. So you need to do that. When you drop down into the body of the email, you want 1 to 2 lines of text. Then you can have your embedded video. Then have a couple more lines of text, and that will help keep you out of the promotions tab.
That is a great tip.
So the next thing that I'm going to tell you is, if you have both, if you have email and you have text, the workflow goes like this. Then it's, you send the email, and then you have a templated text ready to go. Hey, I just sent you an email. I want to make sure you got it. Okay. And add some context to it. Hi, this is Stacey. I'm a real person. HomeLight referred you to us 3 years ago. Just say that. It doesn't matter. Just call it what it is. I'm not sure how you ended up on my list of potential home buyers, but here's where we are and here's where we're going from here, kind of vibe. And so, you know, just saying, hey, this is Stacey. We were in touch, blah, blah, blah. This is what I'm looking for. I just sent you an email. There's some really important information in there I want to make sure you get. If you don't see it in your inbox, please check under the promotions tab or in spam, because sometimes I end up there, and maybe that's why we haven't connected before now. So you want to make sure you go look for that, and just call it what it is and just go straight at it. Again, the obstacle is the way, right? Just go straight at it. Here's where I am. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to get in touch with you. If you want to go even better, tell them you're going to send the email, then send the email, then set a follow-up task for yourself. But when we're doing these things to lead generate, the problem is you're not looking at it like a whole workflow to really like pour gas on it. Like, you guys are happy with a little campfire. Great. I sent out my newsletter to 2,500 people. Great. Did you follow up with a text saying, hey, did you get my newsletter? What did you think? You know?
So make it an email, definitely address it to them by name to make it more relevant to them. Try to stay out of that spam or promotions folder.
Yep.
Put the video in after that, and then add some like medium form content text wise.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anything?
Try bullets. No, try bullets.
Okay.
Try bullets. If you're typing an email that's more than 3 to 5 lines, you have screwed the pooch.
Yeah.
Don't
Got
do
it. So short form then.
Short. Because, and people really like bulleted lists. Remember where they're reading this stuff.
Right.
They're reading it on here. you know, we sit in the office, we read email. Most people are not opening your email that way. So if you do video, keep it like under a minute. If you have other videos you want them to watch. So let's say you do a video on, you know, this is who I am, blah, 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 would love to connect with you this way, whatever. Then what you do is you say, if you're still thinking of buying a home, but you're not ready to connect with me, you can watch this video on how to prepare or how to get a pre-approval or whatever. If you're going to do that, you can do that, link it down below. And use something that you can track. Like this is where I love BombBomb because I can every time every link that's clicked in every email, I like it, and it just helps me do that. But that can be, you know, a really great way to kind of gauge their interest, right? So we're doing things. We're just not really like juicing it. Like we just really need to put the pedal to the floor. Like, how could I do this? And like my friend Ashton in the morning on our Skin in the Game calls, Chris knows Ashton. How can I 10x it? If I'm going to do an open house, how can I 10x that? You know, and I could riff on that for the next half an hour, how to 10x an open house. So you want to make sure, again, get in with a group of people that can give you feedback. Like, this is what I'm working with. I have these cold, shitty leads that I can't delete. I just can't bring myself to do it. Great. Let's try and shake that out a little bit and go at it a couple of different ways and see if we can't pull something out of there. Use the cancellation script. Just, it's what I love about Reach. You can just blow it out to like 10 buyers at a time. And it comes from your phone number and the texts come back into your inbox. It's really nice to use, but just say, you know what, some time ago you wanted to get out in the market and we're looking at houses. I don't know if you're still interested, but I just had a cancellation on Saturday afternoon. Would you like to get together and start to look at some things? It's a great way to just kind of see where they're at.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great tips.
Yeah. So again, when you're doing an annual business plan, you're not dialing into those conversations, right? So with a 12-week year, I'm taking into account all my opportunities and then I'm devising those tactics based on what I'm looking at and what I have to work with.
It's like a whole new way of thinking, basically.
It is, because we don't spend, everybody wants to know the how. So they'll watch 52 webinars trying to figure out, do I do street text? Do I do this? Do I do that? Do I do this? Do I do that? And they'll choose something that's wildly inappropriate for their goal. You know, I talk to agents all the time and they want to go buy Boomtown. We'll use it. It's a great example. And I'm like, great, you want to buy Boomtown. How many deals are you looking to push this year? Oh, I'll be glad to do 8. And I'm like, you don't need Boomtown to do 8 deals. Like, you should be able to do that from like the sofa in your bunny slippers. I can show you how to do that without that expense, but they don't know how to choose tools based on what they're looking to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
that
that's
gives
a thing especially for new agents, right? Or anyone, it doesn't matter. It don't have to be new, but there's so many options out there. So it's hard to just, you know, funnel it down to what's really going to work for you.
Totally. And it's like, how do I know? Like, I want to double my business. I want to raise my average sale price. I mean, there can be lots of, you know, places we can find ourselves in our business where we're trying to level up, but we don't know what to use. So we go out and we listen to all of this stuff and it really just serves to make us feel more overwhelmed. So that's why, again, just like bringing it down and really doing a good assessment on what are you looking at? What do you got?
Yep.
Okay.
Makes
I am
sense.
excited.
Guys, I hope it helps you guys. I would love to chat with you more. You can find me on social media. You can find me. You can even text me if you want. I'll go ahead and put my number in here if you have a question about anything in particular that you're struggling with. I'm really passionate about real estate. I'm passionate about realtors being successful. I don't want us to become dinosaurs. You know, I don't think that Redfin and Zillow are doing anyone any favors. So I want to see us all level up and do well. So I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Well, I so appreciate you being on here, first of all, and I am beyond excited to get started with you and bring my team in for this coaching. It's going to be, I know it's going to be game changing for everybody. So
yeah, and it's just a great shot in the arm. If you're looking at your numbers and you're like, I am not where I want to be, ask yourself, like, how would my business change? What would be different in my life if I could achieve my goals and cover that gap that I have in the next 12 and a half weeks? Like, what does that look like? And we try and make it affordable. So if you're just a solo agent, it's $300. You get in, you have tons of access to me, because I think that's another thing that's really important. So we do a training on Mondays. We have accountability Tuesday through Friday. And then I have an Ask Me Anything on Thursday. We have conversations going all day, every day. Like today, they're doing, some of them are doing pop buys. Okay. Some of them are doing unsolicited CMAs. So they're sharing what they're working on, and they're sharing what they're doing so that people can learn faster and implement faster. Here's what I did. Here's what I said. They're helping each other get unstuck. So, you know, if it's not that, find something where people can give you feedback on what you're doing and work a system.
Love it. Love it.
All right.
Thank you again. I know we went just a little bit over, but I'm so appreciative of your time. I know you're busy, and just
I know
thank
you are too. You're going to go take a listing today. So
I actually am.
that.
Yes. Yep. I got to
That's
get to my
awesome.
appointment.
I think that's awesome. Well, it's great seeing you and meeting you guys. Good to see you, Chris. We missed you.
Absolutely. Well, just change the time zone just a tad. The 5:50 killing me.
So are you guys selling me a house? Is that what you're trying to do? You're like, Stacey, I could fix this whole problem. If you want me on Skin in the Game calls, you just need to buy a house in my time zone.
100%.
Easy. See, kill two birds with one stone right there.
That would solve everything, right?
Yeah.
Love it.
Let me know how I can help you in any way. I hope you guys have a great day and look forward to bumping into you again soon. Take care.
Thanks so much, Stacey. Thanks everybody for hopping on here. Have a great Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.